Executive Brief. We're covering conflict avoidance and why it's killing director and executive level careers. 20 minutes, actionable insights. Let's go. Welcome to Crossroads and Catalyst, the podcast with Shanita B. I am your host. This is where we discuss how a thoughtful, wise, and strategic perspective at a crossroads can be the catalyst for change. Today, we're tackling something I see undermining careers: conflict avoidance. If you have ever watched a performance issue drag on for months or found yourself rehearsing difficult conversations that have never taken place, this brief is for you. So I want to jump into that. But before we do, don't forget to follow the show so that you can get notifications about the latest episodes, and be sure to share them too. So here's your crossroads for today. You're a smart and capable leader, but there's a performance issue on your team or some other problem that is obvious to everyone else, and they know that you are not addressing it. So maybe this is a team member who needs to have some light lit under them, some type of fire lit under them, because maybe they're missing deadlines, or there's a person with an attitude on the team who just does not really seem to be a team player, or maybe there's even some confusion around the scope of work and things are not being completed as one would have expected. And you know you need to say something, but weeks turn into months and nothing changes. I want to know, does this sound familiar to you? Uh, Let me tell you, I once had a team member who was having some difficulty keeping up with work. And so I took over the training because I was getting feedback from the team that this person didn't seem to be catching on to the work the way that they anticipated that they should at that point. And so I went ahead and I took over, and I walked this person through and I let them know, hey, I'm gonna sit in and I'm gonna help navigate some of this. And we're gonna watch and track your progress. And it was uncomfortable, but the fact that it was uncomfortable did not prevent me from addressing the issue, because I knew that it was important if I wanted to maintain a high team morale. And they needed to know that the feedback that they gave to me, that I took it seriously. And so I did something about it. Now, ultimately, it didn't work out for that employee, but the point is I listened to the team and I took the appropriate level of action that was needed in that particular time. So back to our brief, who exactly does this affect as far as avoiding conflict and avoiding addressing issues? Well, who it affects is any leader who wants to be seen as strategic and decisive, and not simply someone who hopes that problems solve themselves, because I think that we recognize that they do not. So here is what is at stake. Every day that you avoid that conversation, you're not just enabling poor performance, you're actually training your entire team that the standards are optional. And you certainly don't want that to set in. And then, of course, you have the other side of this, which is there are other people who are watching, and it's not just your team. These are decision makers who could potentially exercise great authority over the trajectory of your career. And believe me, they hear things and they see things as well. And they're wondering if you have what it takes to move to the next level. So it behooves you to take this seriously, and let's get some clarity about this now, right? So, what is actually happening here? This is really not about being nice or collaborative. Those are mere covers for fear. And I need you to be honest about which fear is driving you. Fear number one: what if the person cries or quits or gets angry? Well, okay, that's fine if they do, but you're not there to be responsible for their emotions. You're there to help manage their performance and and give them the opportunity to take some corrective action with some constructive feedback. Fear number two: what if I'm wrong? Okay, well, the one I can tell you what it is that you are missing. The cost of being wrong about avoiding that conversation is always going to be higher than the cost of actually having it. So you won't know where you really stand unless you go forward with having that conversation. Fear number three: what if it gets worse? It's already worse. Okay. So you're just pretending that it's not, by hoping that it's going to go away on its own, and it won't. So I conducted an oh so scientific poll on LinkedIn recently. around this very topic, and I just simply labeled it, "What's the biggest cost when leaders avoid workplace conflict?" And while there were four different options that were available, team performance suffers, problems get worse over time, leader loses credibility, and culture becomes toxic. The number one response of those who participated in the poll was 50% said the culture becomes toxic. And then the others said that the problems get worse over time. And for sure, all of these things are going to be impacted. But of course, it depends on where you are and what you have seen and observed, even. I'll just read you some of the comments. Jessica mentioned, she said, conflict unaddressed grows. Culture is what we do and what we follow, what we allow, excuse me. An avoidant culture kills your best team members, not just your worst ones. Everything falls to the lowest common denominator in that environment. And I think that that is true. And here's another comment that was provided. This is from Kurt. He says, when leaders avoid tough issues, team performance is affected, but the bigger loss is credibility, in my opinion. Once that starts slipping, it only accelerates over time. I can tell you, you are not the only person who recognizes that there is a problem. The question is, how do you address it? Because that is what it comes down to. And it is going to take you moving beyond your fear in order to get a resolution. Okay? So just remember that. So getting back to the brief, the critical question for your decision tree is this: what message are you sending to the team when you don't address problems? So just like the comment that I just read with the culture being impacted, you are you are developing and nurturing a certain type of culture within your team. Yes, you operate within a greater organization, and the organization as a whole has a culture. But again, there are subcultures all across an organization and within departments. And you are the one who is leading that. And so you determine by what you do and by what you don't do what is allowed, what is appropriate, and what is acceptable in that environment. So really, it comes down, you have three choices, and two of them are career killers. Choice A, you can continue avoiding it. What are the pros? It feels easier in the short term. And the cons? Your credibility erodes daily. And your good people, they get frustrated and they possibly leave. And even worse, your boss steps in. And that's certainly something that you do not want. And this makes you definitely look as if you cannot handle your role, not alone leading a team. Choice B, the feedback sandwich approach. I think that we all know what this is. This is when we approach a conversation that we know is uncomfortable, that maybe the other person doesn't even want to hear, and we start with a compliment, we insert criticism, and then we end with a compliment. Okay, well, the pros with this is it feels like it's gentler. It feels like it's going to be okay. But the con of this is the message gets lost, okay? Because what they hear, the last thing that they're left with is that they're great and they have a wonderful personality. Okay? Nothing changes and you'll be having the same conversation in about 2 months, if that long. So then finally, you have your direct constructive confrontation. So, what are the pros with this? Well, you have clear expectations, immediate course correction, and it demonstrates leadership to your team. What are the cons? It requires courage and it might be uncomfortable for 20 minutes. It might be uncomfortable leading up to the 20 minutes because I know that some of you struggle with dealing with these uncomfortable conversations because you're afraid also of what their response will be apart from the emotional response. But let me tell you something. If you're serious about advancing and bolstering your leadership capital, choice C really is not a choice. It's a requirement. You have to move forward with having that direct confrontational discussion. Okay? So then how do you turn this into a catalyst? Well, here are some immediate actions to take within the next 48 hours. First, stop calling it conflict. Start calling it performance management. because really the words that you use, they definitely matter and they set the stage for how you address and approach things. If you continue to call it conflict, your first response will always be to avoid it. And you really want to avoid avoiding the conflict. Uh, so then, second, schedule the conversation, not next week. Take the time right now to put it on your calendar so that you can plan how you will address it. So then we have a 30-day implementation. Week one, have the direct conversation. Be sure to document it and set clear expectations and a timeline. You want to make sure that they understand when they walk away from that conversation, this is what we discussed, and this is what we anticipate seeing over the course of this particular timeline. Week two, check progress. Do not wait for them to come to you. It is not for them to come to you. It is for you to validate and check in with them to make sure that everything is on the up and up according to the discussion that took place. Week three, assess improvement. If it's there, acknowledge it. If not, escalate the consequences. And believe me, they might try to act surprised, and most reasonable people will not, but some may try to act surprised as if they didn't realize that this is what was going to take place next. If they do act surprised, go back to your documentation and verify that for them. Okay. Week number four, make the final call. Are they meeting the standards or not? And sometimes it is just that simple. And this always sounds easier said than done. And if you're not comfortable, you might have to you might have to do some rehearsals in the mirror to get yourself comfortable with it. But what I'm telling you is if you want to continue to progress within your career and you want to show yourself as someone who is decisive, who is strategic, who can do the hard things, then you're going to have to put these words to action and carry them out and take care of some business. And then finally, you got to have some type of success metrics. And this is what the success metrics look like in this particular context. The behavior changes or the person changes teams. Either outcome means that you did your job. And of course, we don't want to be in a situation where uh, we are hanging people's livelihoods over their heads. That is not what this is about. But what it does is it shows your team, again, that they can count on you to do the things that they're not in the position to do because you might have people on your team who want to be in your position. And if you continue to not address things as they're occurring and you ignore things and you allow things to fester and become worse, well, it may very well be that you get moved out and one of your team members gets put in, which, okay, if that's what you want because you plan on moving up, well, you still have to showcase that you have the ability, that you have the talent and the capability to do those hard things. And I know that you do. The thing is committing to it and carrying it out. So you have to have a plan. And I just gave you some things that you can implement right now in order to affect the type of change that you're anticipating seeing. So here's the summary of this, okay? The bottom line is this: your ability to have difficult conversations directly correlates with your perceived leadership capability. If you avoid them, you'll stay exactly where you are. And I know that you don't want to do that because that's why you're listening to the podcast. You're trying to level up so that you can continue to progress within your career. So, what's the risk level? There's a very high risk level here because every day that you wait, it damages your credibility. Cannot tell you how many times I've had people walk into my office sharing with me concerns that they have about their boss because their boss is not addressing things on their team. Now, where I had the authority and the ability to take some action on their behalf, I would do so. But in most instances, I didn't have the ability to even move their boss because their boss was not under my authority. But this is how bad it is because people, but they want to come to work again. They want to carry out a good job on whatever it is that they have under their purview. But they need a leader who is going to act like a leader and being decisive, addressing the hard things. These are just some of the things that leaders do. Okay. And so then make sure that you have your decision timeline, and your decision timeline is this week, not when it feels comfortable, because it never will feel comfortable. It is Conflict is not an easy thing to address, which is why, whatever context it is that we have to address some type of concern, make sure that we understand the context and apply the appropriate language to that. Okay. So, download your 4C decision tree by clicking the link in the show notes. Okay. Because this will give you the opportunity to work through your specific situation so that you can see in writing what it is that you need to do to address a particular concern. Okay. Because again, leaders are not paid to avoid discomfort. That's why you're in the position that you're in, is to solve problems. And problems can sometimes be more difficult than others, and especially when it comes to those interpersonal relationships. So just make the way for yourself to do that. Again, not based on comfort, but based on need, and so that you can get it done. Be sure to leave a review and share this episode with others. Be thoughtful, be wise, be strategic. And remember, crossroads reveal who you are, catalysts shape who you become. Every decision matters, so make it count. See you next week for your next executive brief.